This video is brought to you with censorship because YouTube. Behavioral studies such as Dr. Douglas T. Kenrick's here have proven that both men and women often seek the most physically attractive mate that they can snag. Hypergamy refers to the desire to be, or the actual being, romantically involved with someone more attractive or more in demand than oneself. Earlier, we learned how, in the past, women were less strict on a male potential suitor's looks because women often weren't a part of the workforce, so relied on a husband's money and status, and how social changes enabled women to choose men based on looks because they could now earn their own money. Let's go deeper. When a person only seeks a mate more physically attractive than themselves, I call it looks hypergamy, the feeling entitled to someone above his or her looks match. A few circumstances that might temper a woman's looks hypergamous nature include low self-confidence, e.g. from a disability or scar owing to a childhood illness like Alexa Blair's, not feeling she can satisfy a mate who is her looks match or above, so she dates down in sexual market value for security, and bad past experiences. For example, being heartbroken or burned by a mate or potential suitor who is her looks match or above, so again, she dates down for security. The Guardian article, The Dating Gap, Why the Odds Are Stacked Against Female Graduates Finding a Like-Minded Man, discussed the fact that in many Western countries, more women than men are graduating from higher education, and that this means there are fewer educated men to go around. The article implicitly and unwittingly highlights women's money hypergamy. Women want to date a man with more earning power than they have. It's part of women's biological imperative to want to be protected and provided for. Women want to date up in status too. Women's status hypergamy is biological. The very traits that make a man low snuggle market value, e.g. low self-esteem, emotional and physical weakness, social awkwardness, living with his parents, and having no friends or social status, are the very traits that many men, particularly low SMV men, are indifferent to or even seek in a woman. Where a woman wants a man with higher self-esteem, emotional and physical strength, social competency, and social status than herself, a man wants a woman with less of these traits than he has himself. Men are hypogamous as regards these traits. Men want to date down in these traits. A man feels that he can easier satisfy a woman with lower SMV than he has himself. It's also part of men's inborn white knighting protective nature. A woman being low SMV, e.g. a loser or disadvantaged, is endearing to men and just makes more men think they have a chance with her or satisfying her. Juggernaut law. Women want to date LMS winners. Men are fine with dating LMS losers. A woman wants to feel inferior to the man that she dates. With respect to her, he must be stronger, taller, have more status, earn more, take the lead more, you name it. On this YouTube video by a female amputee, a man wrote, "Your husband is the luckiest male human on the planet, and if he does not believe you when you tell him, let him read this. Yo husband, you are the luckiest human male on the planet. You get to wake up next to one of the most amazing female humans on the planet. Just trying to remind you in case you just might forget. To go through all she has and still remain relatively positive is bloody jaw-dropping amazing. In my honest opinion, thank you for listening. Good day." This says everything about how much men value women for just existing, let alone overcoming adversity. If I ever made a What Attracts Men series, at worst it would be one 10-minute long video. At best it would be a short GIF. Men have a higher snuggle drive than women owing to higher testosterone, the snuggle hormone. If you've just eaten a high-quality meal and are then offered low-quality scraps, you may reject them. Not so if you hadn't eaten for weeks. Similarly, men find most women physically attractive because of greater hunger, while most women consider anything below the top few percent of physically attractive men as low-quality scraps. Women are money and status hypergamous, whereas men rarely are. And women can afford to be looks hypergamous too, because of their high SMV. Yet most men will only ever acknowledge women's money and status hypergamy. Why? Because men can cope that they may one day become wealthy or high status. But to admit that your looks are responsible for your subpar dating life hurts the ego. Blue-pilled or even many red-pilled men can tell themselves, women don't want me because I don't have enough money or status. That's impersonal. But to admit that women don't want you because of your individual looks is very personal. Very black-pilled. The height mogging is brutal. Notice how the Indian kind of takes on a submissive role when as soon as the tall guy comes in. Right. So I think this Indian guy approached a woman who was doing a live stream. I don't know the context.
What brought you to Vancouver?
Oh, life brought me to Vancouver.
Oh, John!
So they asked me what my viral name is. I said Rag in a video. You know what I mean, right?
Oh no, that's my life there.
So I think height does matter, but I think the ideal height is 5'10".
What?
With a great face.
For this dance routine, this girl has to kiss this boy, Gino, that she doesn't find attractive. Her finding his looks unpalatable results in her acting awkward, tense, and closed. I did not sign up to kiss Gino, and it's a little awkward for me because he likes me. Which in turn makes Gino feel awkward and lacking in confidence. It's a vicious circle. Females may not appreciate just how devastating and real the black pill truth about looks is. But they can definitely dispense black pills through their behavior, or like these mothers here, they are complicit in its expression. You kissed him on the lips? I had to, it was in the dance. Kissing Gino in the studio is not what I envisioned for my first kiss. If it was Zac Efron, I would kiss him. But not Gino. The same mothers on a different day will tell Gino to work on his confidence, or that he's not trying hard enough.
You and I, back together again, we got the world.
In War 3, we touched upon losing body fat and getting a gym body to become more attractive. This time, we'll look at the caveats. While some muscle mass can up your attractiveness, your face will nearly always be the ceiling on how much a gym body can raise your overall attractiveness. A huge and rather ironic black pill is that low body fat and a gym body do more to improve your looks, the more facially attractive you are in the first place. Most women will see a man with a gym body but a below average looking face or manlet height as overcompensating. But it may raise his attractiveness to a subset of women. Good luck with that. The next caveat is your bodily frame, which is dictated by such ratios as your WSR, waist to shoulder ratio. The golden ratio defines many attractive proportions. Assign to the measurement around your waist the value 1. Now measure around the broadest point of your shoulders. The closer the shoulder measurement is to 1.618 times greater than that around your waist, the more attractive your WSR. Hugh Jackman has a good WSR. Ratio equals shoulders divided by waist. His shoulders are around 1.618 times broader than his waist. Obviously, if I could measure this in 3D, it would be more accurate. The man on the left has too low a waist-to-shoulder ratio. I estimate it to be about 2.18, but its appearance matters more than the hard autistic numbers. His body would mostly be impressive, not so much to women, but to male bodybuilders who don't realize that it's possible to blast through the threshold of an attractive gym body, through the threshold of diminishing returns, and into the land of uncanny valley. The man on the right has too high a waist-to-shoulder ratio. I estimate it to be about 1.49. His frame is too convex, and his ears aren't doing him any favors either. There's an autoplasty for that. Kid Cudi on the left has one of the worst frames I've seen on anyone not experiencing a famine. His shoulders are so narrow compared to his waist that if they ever wanted to make a real-life version of Earthworm Jim, just saying. Also, his ribs look asymmetric and twisted, probably from borrowing. Notice the man on the right's try-hard poses to try to make his terrible frame look impressive. His gym body is limited by his frame. Notice the effortlessness with which the man in the middle poses and looks better than both. A man's WHR, or waist to hip ratio, matters as well. The nearer a man's WHR to 0.9, the more attractive. If your WHR is too low, you look feminine. See the leftmost guy, who also has a bad WSR. If your WHR is too high, you look like a barrel or fridge. In addition to Cudi's bad WSR, he also has a bad WHR, compounding his poor frame. In this quick and dirty morph, I made the widest part of this man's waist smaller. The black pill teaches that going to the gym can help some men somewhat if they have a good frame, and that success is limited by face, age, hair, race, muscle building genetics, steroid receptiveness, etc. The red pill idea that going to the gym will definitely make all men attractive is delusional. This man actually looks comical because of the discrepancy and incongruity between his sculpted body and subpar face. To give yourself the appearance of meeting the attractive waist to shoulder and waist to hip ratios, you can add some muscle mass to your shoulders or lose some fat around the waist, etc. But trying to overcompensate has its limits. In my rough and ready morph, I actually reduced some of the muscle in his shoulders slightly to take away from the overcompensating look. His skull and face are incongruent with his barrelish garden gnome body. While me digitally improving his WSR and WHR did improve his look, the improvements I made to his body were eclipsed by those I made to his face. Luckily, the shoulders and traps have a very high concentration of androgen receptors. Androgen receptors play a part in muscle growth. The androgen receptors mostly can't differentiate between natural testosterone and exogenous testosterone, i.e. anabolic steroids. The steroids bind to the androgen receptors, which stimulates muscle growth. This is not an endorsement, rather information. But if your frame isn't even close to meeting the aforementioned ratios of WSR and WHR, adding muscle won't help. Frame adds to masculinity. Look how male model Chad, Nick Bateman, with his heavenly frame, looks like he's sitting next to a bullyable leprechaun. If only Avicii had had a better frame, then maybe I would have listened to his music. The Chad on the left with his huge frame and height looks alpha and dominant. Look who the girl is standing nearer to and is more facing. The guy with the poor frame, height and looks on the right is so out of place in the presence of such genetic superiority from the Chad and his Stacy that rigor mortis has set in. Understand me clearly, a gym body can't override an unattractive face consistently and efficiently. Eventually returns will start to diminish. But any looks maxing might improve your chance of scoring romantic interest from women. Part of that looks maxing is definitely being low body fat, having a gym body, and improving your frame as best you can, even if you need to cheat as we've discussed. Never before have women had so many Chads and Chad lights to choose from. Men need to looks max scrupulously.
I say from this height. From here?
Lie,
yeah. Like
lie, complete lie, no.
She wants super tall.
Even if she didn't mind a guy being maybe 1 or 2 inches shorter than her, she's getting hit on by guys who are like a foot taller than her. So why not pick
She has better options.
Why not pick the best option?
4'10", dude.
Who's 4'10"?
I am. Later, she complained about me
Snuggle.
raping her. Like, she claimed that I raped
Snuggle.
her.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
In the black pill community, as in many others, we use the 10-point scale to describe physical attractiveness more succinctly. A 0 to 1 is deformed or hideous, and 8 to 10 is physical perfection, where often their looks are a key part of their identity, career, and happiness. Despite there being some overlap and minor disagreements within the black pill community, generally the main categories of looks are sub 5, below a 5 out of 10 in looks, the below average lookers. Average looking, just slightly below a 5 to a weak 6 in looks, also known as normie tier. Chad light, about a 6.5 to strong 7. Chad is 8+. Most blue-pilled people think they're about a 7 to 8 out of 10 in looks, not realizing that 7 to 8s are rare. Most people are average looking by definition, being neither hideous enough to induce rubbernecking in traffic, nor breathtakingly beautiful enough to induce the same. A key component of physical attractiveness is youth. Youth is especially important for female attractiveness because it's more intertwined with fertility in women than it is in men, because of women's narrower fertility window. Indeed, some sub-5 women's only appeal is their youth, but youthfulness is still important for men. The black pill teaches that balding is a sexual death sentence for most men. Balding makes almost all men look older and less attractive, but the extent to which it does this depends on several traits that I'll list shortly. Blue pillars think that baldness doesn't detract that much from one's attractiveness. Many red pillars' view is that balding can be mitigated easily by shaving your hair and gym maximizing your looks by working out. Black pill, you need to have the right complexion, facial features, skull size and shape, height, body fat, frame, and overall masculinity to pull off the bald look.
It's called the Beckford bar.
The Beckford bar?
Yeah.
Okay.
My boyfriend is going bald and I hate bald men. How can I change the way I feel? I am having a difficult time adjusting to it, and it's affecting my sexual and physical attraction to him. Should I end our relationship over this? Balding is noticeable despite combing your hair over your hairline or trying to fashion a new one further back. Most guys who are balding will need to halt and reverse it if they want to keep their looks. The first port of call is finasteride, also known as Proscar and Propecia. Finasteride is a medication used mainly to treat an enlarged prostate or scalp hair loss in men. The fear-mongering about its causing lovemaking dysfunction is exaggerated. It works by decreasing the production of dihydrotestosterone, DHT, an androgen sex hormone in the body. Clueless blue pillars cope that balding is due to too much testosterone, but it's not. It's down to too much DHT. Finasteride halts hair loss, and for the very lucky few can go some way to reversing it if caught very early. One of these twins let their balding continue, while the other started to take finasteride. Stark difference. Note, don't use finasteride before you start to bald. If your hair loss is more aggressive, dutasteride is a more effective but slightly riskier version of finasteride. If you are near to or beyond a Norwood 2 on the balding scale, you will still need a hair transplant to recover the lost hair. Note, a hair transplant without taking finasteride won't halt the hair loss, just like painting over rust won't stop the rusting process. The two main methods of hair transplantation are follicular unit transplantation, or FUT, and follicular unit extraction, or FUE. The FUT process involves removing a small strip of tissue from the back of the head from which the donor hair follicles will be extracted. The FUT strip extraction method typically results in a very narrow linear scar in the back of the head. FUT is cheaper than FUE. In FUE hair transplantation, each follicular unit is individually taken directly from the scalp, with no strip of tissue being removed. Since FUE procedures involve removing hairs individually from the scalp, there is no linear scar left behind, so FUE is often preferred. There are other considerations, such as minoxidil, which reinvigorates shrunken hair follicles. They increase in size and regrow thicker hair over time. Minoxidil promotes hair regrowth in 4 ways, including reversing miniaturization of follicles and increasing blood flow around follicles. However, it's reported that it works best on the crown of the head, and that as soon as you stop using it, the regrown hair falls out. Some hair shedding may occur initially. These are supposedly what good responders can expect while they keep using minoxidil. Your hair follicles may become immune to minoxidil without Propecia backing the process up. Minoxidil has been reported to stimulate beard growth also. Minoxidil may speed up skin aging.
Heute ist ein großer Tag.
Another consideration, if your hair loss is too advanced for transplantation, is a hair system. They have evolved and look pretty realistic nowadays, but hair systems do need a lot of care, washing and refitting. But the benefits are huge. This man went from who gives a f to f boy. Scalp micropigmentation, or SMP, is essentially a hair tattoo that gives the illusion of a shaven head of hair. You won't get the volume that hair gives, but it will frame your face, give you a hairline, and you won't immediately stand out as a bald subhuman. It doesn't fade in color or strength. It works particularly well on tanned white and non-white skin. But if you're very bald, your scalp might shine, ruining the illusion of it being hair. If you're pale-skinned or old, it looks suspiciously bad. A short-term solution is hair building fibers. You apply these fibers to your hair when needed to thicken up, diffuse thinning, or balding patches. Then you comb the fibers in. Be sure to buy the additional holding spray. These solutions aren't all perfect and come with risks and downsides. If balding affected women as much, science would have endeavored to find a real solution for it by now. This is one of many crotch cam videos circulating the internet in which a man stuffs something down his pants to emulate a big manhood, then secretly films women's reactions. Let's face it, what separates a male-female friendship from a relationship isn't just physical attraction, but intimacy and lovemaking. The connotation of a big manhood is that its owner has the wherewithal to satisfy a woman's sensual need. If you can trigger in a woman's mind the thought of intimacy during her first impression of you, it might be easier for that intimacy to occur. Women are into the male manhood more than they let on. Remember, it's not about what women say, but how they behave. If your face and height somewhat come near to their sky-high standards, there is a chance that a huge pipe might bring you over the threshold of desirability. I'm scared as hell to start a relationship because of my micropeen. What makes it worse? My female friends tend to trash talk about guys with small peens, and they all agree that it's a justifiable reason to dump them. Don't be fooled by the women's laughter. This childish reaction is because the women are in company. On their own, each woman would be composed, intrigued, and more importantly, thinking about what the pipe before them is capable of. You're looking at censored footage of women video chatting with men who are showing off how well endowed they are. If your trouser power level doesn't live up to women's ever-growing size expectations, there are men whose does. Can you compete with a woman's past lovers in the downstairs department? Below which size is it over for you even if you're decent looking? We'll touch on this deeper in a future episode. Coming up. Tall height adds to a man's attractiveness. It isn't attractive in and of itself. But below which height are you simply unacceptable to women, even if you have a good face? And the importance of a good lower jaw.